Hello and welcome everybody to another discussion video. Hope you guys are ready to have some fun, chat about some new job ideas. So let me see here, get everything set up. I'm gonna open up Final Fantasy just so that I have it open and I'm not a liar. All right, and if you guys had access to the doc, you guys can put that on now. I think we got enough people in here to at least get started. About a third of what I'm expecting today. All right, so let me go over this. I am in no way, shape, or form affiliated with Square Enix or the Final Fantasy XIV development team. This is all fan theory craft. We are having fun discussing what jobs we could add, going through the creative process and logistical side. We're using Final Fantasy XIV as our basis so that we can have some sort of restrictions and barriers as to what is possible within this job design so we don't get too far-fetched, too crazy, too outlandish. We know some restrictions. I don't have a team with me to give me restrictions on what's possible within a game, what's possible within an engine, the coding framework. So right now we're going to be borrowing Final Fantasy XIV's, suggesting a job even if they decide to take inspiration from it or pull from it at any given point. That is completely on them, but this is not a guarantee of something to come. It is just something that we are doing for fun, and I am doing as my own training, basically, for a creative director position at some point in the future for gaming. That is my main skill. Programming I can do, but I'm much better off in the creative leadership role. Mostly because it's also a skill that I've been working on to work with others. Let my ideas kind of die and be reborn through discussion, or just simply die if they don't stand up to scrutiny. Not a leadership position as in I have an ego. It's more of I have ideas that I want to get out. I have a dream that I want to pursue, and that is the role I need to fill. Now, whether or not that is going to be the position that I have in the next 5 years, I don't know. I would be perfectly fine to take a number 2, 3, 5 position if it got me some good real life experience, but the end goal is to be in a creative director position, as I'm sure a lot of people would feel like. Though I'm sure there are people out there who are just fine being told what to do and just being a part of the process. I feel absolutely no sort of way against that mentality either. So, disclaimer out of the way. Yeah, TLDR, none of this is for real, just having fun with it. That's right. Let's get started. So something I like to do when designing jobs in my free time is coming up with a few words to describe the job, something rather general, things that encapsulate what is the theme of this job. The first one, very simple, pirate. Okay? Pirate. One possibility as well, gambling. I'm just spitballing until you guys throw your stuff out there. Pirates, gambling, and versatile. Versatile, adaptive, kind of go in the same thing. You saw Corsair, you thought the Admiral. Yeah, we're going a little bit different because Admiral is specifically a gunner. We haven't seen her do any sword work. There are going to be Linza Lominzan properties with, or like inspirations. That's where the pirates are from. Or it could be, the Hingashi pirates as well. Or even in an unexplored realm. But pirate is the thing. But we already have something pretty far set apart from what the Admiral is. And I'm not going to go too much into her because then that's two conflicting ideas that are going to be fighting for supremacy. Right now what we have is a general idea. Let me go over this again real quick for anybody who wasn't here. We're looking for a hybrid ranged melee. We're probably going to throw it in the scouting position. We're going to say that it's primarily ranged with melee options, but in reality, really where we came to in the end, sorry, I'm trying really hard to ignore the crying. It's going to be switching back and forth between ranged and melee. Now, how does that work? We were talking about a gambler part of this where maybe there's some procs, some RNG attached to it, but maybe we shy away from it because it's oversaturated in the ranged category already with, I think, Machinist, Bard, Dancer all have it. So it's not a bad thing to have, but maybe it's too much. So if it works, then there's no reason to not do it. But we're also not doing it just because other classes are doing it. If we're gonna add RNG to this, it has to be because it fits with the job. It fits with the class. It fits with the job fantasy without also, like, some things fit with job fantasy but ruin gameplay. So we have to do something that doesn't screw up a rotation. RNG that doesn't hurt DPS so severely. You know what I mean? Gambler with a non-random system. That would be tough. Like, I was thinking cards or something, like a deck of cards similar to, you have Setzer. But we might kind of get away from that altogether. But we're thinking pirate, risk taker, but also well versed in, you're on the high seas, you're shooting across at different ships, and then you're also boarding the other ships, so you also have to fight in melee combat. So, how does the hybrid theory or the hybrid concept work? What are we talking about here? The point is that we're going to have a melee gauge when filled, enhances some melee attacks or gives you access to certain attacks, maybe transforms your attacks, similar to how Phoenix transforms summoners, how Summoner basically in general now, its basic attacks are changed based on the state that it's in, right? But not exactly Summoner, because it's a different job. We're just saying they've done it before, so we can always get some like fancier animations or something by doing this without also adding button bloat. That's why I'm talking about similarities between what we have with Summoner. I'm not saying we should copy Summoner. I'm saying it could be cool. Just throwing that out there. All right. And then the ranged gauge, which empowers ranged attacks. Similar concept. Once that's full, you get some cool stuff. Now, how does that work? Well, you use your melee attacks to fill the ranged gauge. And then you use your range combo. Then you use your range attacks to fill the melee gauge while the range thing is on cooldown, presumably. And then you get a melee combo. And then you just keep switching back and forth. That is the solo gameplay right now. So you're just going to be going back and forth between them, and that is how your rotation is going to be. Now, what happens if you want to switch back? You want to be ranged. You just want to specifically be ranged in a fight. You can't just keep taking another range. So your team is full. You got your 2 melee, your 2 ranged, you're one of the ranged. How are you going to get your range gauge fill? Well, with this dance partner-esque ability called First Mate. They will get some sort of buff attached to them, but you assign it, and it can be assigned on the fly, no matter what you need to do. If things change, whatever happens, you can change it on the fly. You assign somebody your first mate. If you are being ranged, you are going to assign a melee target as your first mate. Somebody who's going to be getting a lot of uptime. It could be the main tank, could be your Dragoon, could be your Monk, whatever the case may be. Then their melee attacks are going to fill your ranged gauge. So you're just going to be using your ranged attacks. Your ranged gauge will fill. Boom, you do it, and then you have that. You go through that rotation. Regarding the cooldown I mentioned earlier, we'd have to figure out a way around that. Either something, if First Mate is active, the cooldown is negated. As long as you have a First Mate, it's negated. And then the same thing, if you want to be in melee range, you pick one of your ranged targets. Could be magic, could be physical ranged. They're going to fill your melee gauge, and then you get your melee attacks. So you're going to be able to do both without losing anything. And then, of course, the weapons that we're thinking of: sabers, guns, which is a musket, blunderbuss. Now, Drac, we already have machinist guns. How are we going to differentiate the Corsair guns? Well, similar with how you have the Grimoire or the Codex, which are both books but classified differently, you would have them, classified as a musket or a blunderbuss. That would set it apart from pistol. So it would be a Corsair-specific weapon. And then the sabers, of course, would be saber, curved blade, whatever you want to call it, apart from Paladin's sword or Samurai's katana. If that makes sense. So that is the overall what we've done for anybody who was not here for that discussion. That's where we're at. Could also have them as a combo weapon. That's true as well. Yes, exactly. And then they could switch back and forth. The idea is that like once the gauge is filled, you put away your saber. Like if your range gauge is filled, you put away the saber, and then you've got the Admiral's like dual pistols or something like that. And then if the melee gauge is filled, you put away the pistol, and then you've got dual sabers, and you're just like swashbuckling. You know what I mean? I'm thinking of Bofuri. It would have to be a permanent like dance partner. Yes, it would be more like dance partner like that. But something you can switch on the fly. Bofuri is such an amazing dumpster fire. Like, the suspension of disbelief has to go way out there. Like, there's no possible way this person gets that lucky with just, just straight up dumb luck in figuring out all these things, or like just so happens to unlock all these things through these certain circumstances. But it's so much fun. It is so much fun. I love that show so much. Like I said before, I like to bring together a few words to encapsulate job identity theme. And then we keep going. If we're ever stuck on something, we go back to this. Or anytime we suggest a new concept or part of this job, we go back. Does it match? It's a pirate. It gambles. It's versatile and adaptive. And these words can change based on, like, these are not concrete, but these are a stepping stone to move forward, if that makes sense. So if we find later on, hang on, we're at a bit of a weird situation here where some of these aren't really adding up, or it would be a lot better if we could shed this restriction, and then we would go back, revisit these three or four words, and then reassess what we've done. Takes a little bit longer, but this going for I find that having this here makes things a lot smoother moving forward, even if you have to change it, than having nothing and trying to figure this out as you go. So up here was the first step, and then we're taking these three from these ideas. So if anybody else has something that might be a little bit more concise, a little bit more focused, now's the time for suggestions on that. What you're feeling, and it has to be, think not what they're wielding, not how they're dressed. How is the gameplay feeling? What is the vibe of this job? When somebody brings up like Dragoon, you think dragon abilities, you think jumping, you think, of course they have the lance work, so the weapons are, in essence, that important, but at the same time, it's what kind of feeling, you've got the dragon blood going through you and all that stuff. Or monk, hand-to-hand combat, using all parts of your body, shoulders, legs, fists, headbutt, not yet. I'm waiting for that headbutt ability. That'd be cool at some point. Make it be easier to say if we know what type of role it would have. So yeah, right up here, we've got melee ranged hybrid, scouting. That's what we're going with right now. And then what about a lottery system that you pull from that can give you range option or melee options? Like, how would that, what are you thinking? Because we did have an idea for like deck of cards type thing, where, because we're thinking the gambler sort of like kind of the pub feeling of a pirate, or like thinking somebody like Setzer from 5. Look how Paladin Red Mage have a melee and a range phase. Not quite. Yes, but no. Just so you guys all have this available, because I think I can share. I just want viewer, copy this link. I think that would be easier. I'm going to put a little asterisk on here because I don't know if we really want to go the gambling route. That's just kind of what I've thought of. Corsair in Final Fantasy XI had a system where they would pull cards, and then I think you could like double up on it, and it would be, an experience boost or an attack speed boost or mana. I don't know if it had mana regen, because Red Mage was kind of the mana battery. Yeah, that's the thing, SK, is that the gambling would be more of a thematic thing. Kind of think of Monk's chakras. It would be on that, so it wouldn't affect, because I agree with you. you have to stay away from things that are core to the rotation. Because Machinist being so RNG based initially was bad. You know, proc fishing for your base rotation was awful. Balance card stuff. You know, you only had one thing that you wanted. I'm thinking more of, it's kind of an RNG system where you're procking something that, the idea that I was having was a deck of cards. You know, you're pulling out a deck of cards, and then you're trying to get a full hand. So it just seems to coincides with the stuff, or the monk 5 chakra thing. Things like you could have, you know, a flush and it would have an effect, or 2 pair, you know, just things that are like poker based. And then, you know, a cooldown or something that would be sleeve, I think, no, it has sleeve draw. Something like loaded cards or some stacked deck or something like that, where they correct something. So it's something else to pay attention to, because people do like that. People do like that RNG. Like, think of, I don't know if Firestarter procs are great, but keeping an eye on like Thundercloud and adjusting your rotation for Black Mage. It's not necessary for your rotation. You can just reapply it manually. But if you get it RNG based, then it feels good and you're paying attention to it. So procking isn't always bad. It can break it more in for the purpose of breaking up the monotony of a rotation. Some meta dive shooter with their gun and whatever rolled would deal that many hits. That'd be cool. Pirate from DQ. Dragon Quest X. Let me see here. Intermediate vocations. First available in Dragon Quest VII. Pirate is tough into the season. Life of Mandatory. High agility and chance of stealing items. Combine the skills of Sailor and Thief. And require mastery of both to unlock. I love that kind of system. So defense break, stealing mana. Damages 1 enemy group. Swooshel. Swoosh, kaswoosh, kaswooshel. Like those naming conventions. So we've got the pirate, somewhat gambling, versatile, adaptive, and now we are going to be sabers and muskets. Devs have taken cues from some of Drax's job criticism videos. Yeah, that's kind of the idea. And I'm doing my best there to also work with, because they're those people in the community, you guys, maybe one of you, several of you perhaps, that have points of view that I'm just not considering, or things that I need to get real feedback from so that I can kind of know how to go forward. Now, just because Final Fantasy has these ideas, or Final Fantasy players, I should say, have these ideas, doesn't mean that every person in the world is going to have those ideas. But it's still important to take in feedback to move forward on things that people will like in this context. So, yeah, I think Machinist is good for like the turrets and the automaton. Right now, what we're looking at, is this the same link? If you guys would like to look at the general overview of what we're looking for. I don't want to go back to it too. I don't want to have to keep going back to it. We got to move forward. So I appreciate everybody coming in. Just that'll be that's the doc. You guys can look at it at any time you want. It's view only. Just check it out, see where we're at, and then if anybody does find a way to mess with it, I have a backup anyway, so it doesn't matter. Yeah, I know that Final Fantasy 11 also had the Corsair, but we're trying to move away from that as well, because this isn't Final Fantasy 11. It's Final Fantasy 14, and we're trying to push it into the box of Final Fantasy 14. I feel like Machinists lost their turret in Shadowbringers. Now they're just gone. No, they didn't lose it. It just was. It's different now. Now instead of just summoning the turret, they summon the Magitech, or the Automaton Queen, and stuff like that. They're more of a machinist, not a gunner. They definitely got more machine abilities and stuff to push them away, because Yoshi P didn't want them to be a gunner. Sorry if there are frame drops. My internet's been weird again today. I'm thinking about switching providers. This has just been like this for a month. And I got really good stuff. And gigabyte down service, and then all of a sudden just these spikes happen and it just cuts off everything. I think it would work out. Yeah, right now we're looking at like hand cannon. Hand cannon is probably musket. Hand cannon. I don't know if that's a hyphenated word, but we're going with it. Sabers and hand cannon. Like a Single-handed blunderbuss. So these are our keywords right now. It has a pirate theme, maybe some gambling, and it's versatile. Of course, we have the versatility up here from the going back and forth between melee and range attacks. Shortened versions of Gaius's guns. No, kind of like, yeah, thinking more of like things like this. Or I guess they're pistols, right? More like this. Kind of like the flared end. Something a little bit more like flintlock style. Pseudo like the Admiral's, probably a little bit more crude is what I'm thinking of. Like to have a shapeshifter, but that's not really Final Fantasy. Trust me, I proposed Summoner becomes something a little bit more like that. We were talking somewhat kind of Magitech Knight with the armor that you'd have, or the whatever shield. I don't know how they'd make it work, but they'd have to somehow. Grenades, bombs, bombs for sure. Trying to think. They moved away so much from like AoEs you place on the ground. I miss Shadow Flare dearly. I miss Flaming Arrow. Man, like it was fun having all those things on the ground. Yeah, it would probably be a range attack or an off global that I'm thinking about for if you like threw a grenade and shot it. And, like a lot of these ideas would be 10 times cooler in an action combat setting, but we're thinking more in the line of rotation system, right? Thoughts are slowly vanishing. It's a sad time. It's a sad time, but it's a rotation-based game, so I don't like making excuses for it because I personally like that stuff, but it is what it is. So yeah. All right. So we got some bombs. We've got... So Machinist is using like more Magitech. This is a lot more crude. This is a crude style of job. This is a very down and dirty, we're thinking. Like you can still have some class, you know, the Pirate Kings-esque, you know, air of nobility, but also I'm not afraid to kick you in the balls or slam the clam. You know, we're gender equal here. Gum pistol. Don't, dude, you're gonna summon Yoshi P in here. Don't do that. We can't. I'm not actually talking. You know what? Actually, that would actually get him to look at it. Let's make this more of a One Piece themed. Let's make this a One Piece themed job. Physical Red Mage. Yeah, the whole idea, though, is instead of requiring melee, going back and forth between the melee and range, which Red Mage has to do, this would be an optional between, and you'd only go back and forth between them if you're playing solo. What about Hunter style, like bear traps and whips? That would be, there's not a, that would be another thing I think that would really be cool in the action combat setting, because like think Monster Hunter. You have traps and the boss can be stunned. The boss can be knocked out. The boss can be tripped. The boss can be poisoned and all this stuff. Whereas Final Fantasy, you can't do anything to the boss. You are set in this dance of rotations and mechanics, and you just have to do the dance. So I think that's a good kind of. I would prefer like a hunter on its own, like a sniper would be great for like traps for that idea, and have hunter even like pseudo beastmaster. That'd be really sick, kind of like you have it in Guild Wars 2. But not really for pirate. As much as I'd like to have like you scatter, what do you call them? The spikes basically on the ground to like slow enemies or do damage. Like I don't mind doing it. It's just that they keep moving away from it, so I'm not sure if they would actually like put it back in. So that's why I'm talking about Final Fantasy restrictions, so that we can go through these caltrops. Thank you. I was thinking cantrips, and I was like, that's not right. That's just D&D. But while we're on this train, we kind of know, we're not going to go specifically into what the main rotation is going to look like. Let's look at some buffs and some off globals. So that's where this kind of job identity, what are we going to do that's going to either, let's think of some cool ideas for the off globals and some buffs. And then what are we going to, then we'll talk about how they can, or like at the same time talk about how they can affect the general rotation. Like, even though we don't have anything set in stone, we can think of ideas like, oh, it empowers this, or it gives you an extra this, or whatever. That is true. Doton is still a thing. It could be a good caltrop in D&D terms exceed for it. Okay, yeah, we can have the. Let's do. This could even be like, we can think of their AOE rotation as well. Let's call it puddle. I think everybody knows what a puddle is. Alcohol. There you go. Rum. Let's bring in the rum. Sea shanty buffs. Okay. We need to tweak that enough so it's not barred, right? But I'd like it. I like it. Is swashbuckler a motif also? Yeah. No, I don't think red mage is swashbuckler. Red mage is more fencer. Maybe there's an overlap there that I'm not aware of, but that's the distinction in my mind. Sea shanty expedient. Okay, so like yeah, because I was thinking something like that because of I think oh yeah, this is kind of basically Gangplank from League of Legends, or how Gangplank used to be. I don't know how that game's changed since I've played it in like 10 years. Rune Fencer, yeah, that sounds pretty close. Yeah, we were thinking the LB ghost ship firing cannons. Big cannon of your own. Release the Kraken. If it's primarily single, or yeah, we'd have to debate on. Well, we're doing primary ranged, so AOE, and then it has melee as an option. Like, it can play as a melee, but its default is ranged because of the pistol. Have a hook attached to a rope, and they throw it at the boss. Okay, and then what would that do? Turn around, fire a big shot. Have it be super dramatic for the wind up. Some sort of like charged pistol barrage, maybe. Yeah, pistol main hand, saber offhand. Kind of the idea right now is that if you get your buffed melee window, you go into dual sabers. If you get your buffed or ranged window, you go into dual pistols. And you just have like those windows back and forth. But if you're playing mainly ranged, then you're mainly doing the range combo stuff. Is the hook like as a gap closer type of thing? We could use that as a gap closer. Kind of bring yourself in. It's hard to do with like tethering mobs because you used to be able to do it with warrior and then they took that away. So yeah, thunderclap. It just be would you be in animation lock too much or too long for it to be an effective one? It depends. The cannon jump also is something I was thinking of, like dropping a bomb underneath a Junkrat, basically. I'm also, I know that it doesn't always work. Oh, you pseudo have it with like Black Mage being a turret caster, but I would love something where you bring out like a cannon. I want more charged abilities where you're holding down the button for the attack and damage goes off. And it sounds like that seems weird. I don't think that's satisfying. But if you give the right feedback for that, it can be really cool. So like, I want monks to be the 100 fists where you're just like punching nonstop. And then if you have to cancel it early for any reason, the cooldown is like offset. So it's not, you're not losing the whole thing. So you also wouldn't be incentivized to stand in bad stuff. Yeah, kind of like Tenchi Jin, except you're getting damage off while you're doing it. Tenchi Jin should also get money back if you have to interrupt it. And not been but usable? Yeah, kind of. Yeah, definitely. Definitely needs a Starboard Larboard something. Yeah, that's where I get my stuff for that one. Old Crest. Lost Ark had some good stuff. And I think it would still lend itself pretty well to Final Fantasy. Like, there's a lot of bad stuff that you got to move out of, but if you time it right, same as your ley lines, same as anything else, really. Yeah, I keep forgetting that Blue Mage has that skill. I want more of that. More channeled abilities. At least one for like half the jobs, I think would be really cool. Give me a Marrowweb reference. Either Marrowweb or the Ruby Sea pirates. I forgot their name. They're not the Syndicate, are they? Alright, we got some rum. We're talking about buffs here. I still like the idea, we're gonna flesh that one out later. Sea Shanty. There once was a ship that put to sea. The name of the ship was a belly of tea. Waves went up the belt down below my belly boy blow. I'm not taking anything from 12. Really, I'm thinking more. Think more like kind of Gangplank from League of Legends, or there was somebody else that we were referring to. Yeah, not Sky Pirate. This is more because Final Fantasy has the Sky Pirates too. We're thinking more the Confederates or Limsa Lominsa. Have an offhand that carries a fishing hook. Right now we've got the saber and the pistol. So saber pistol is what we're going with right now for main hand offhand, or having both right now in one weapon like ninja. Scurvy. That would be an interesting thing, like if they had to keep up their buff to like they had to drink enough rum or have this stuff, or they get like scurvy sickness if they drop it, like dropping a Nichon on its head on Black Mage. But they moved away from that as well. They no longer punish classes for dropping their stuff, aside from just losing some damage. So I've looked at Final Fantasy XI for a few ideas, but we can't take everything exactly one for one because menu-based versus rotation-based combat. Kraken tentacles, I've considered that. Yeah, we consider that at least for like the LB kind of thing. Release the Kraken type deal, or like wouldn't that be something if we have melee, we have range, but then for the LB we have a big AoE like caster. Parrot might not be a bad idea. Like a parrot or a monkey. Well, the LB3s are personalized, but yeah, I'm with you on the... I wish we had LB1 and 2 more specialized. How complicated would it be to give the player the choice to main hand or offhand either weapon and skills be available accordingly? I don't think it works for 14, but really what we have right now... Yeah, let me do that. Could also place some mine. Fire cannon to reposition, something like that. Yeah, there's really no reason they can't do that. There's no reason they can't make this pretty wacky while still fitting within the realm of a Final Fantasy XIV job. It would just be different, but different isn't bad. It's just we don't want it to lack identity because of that versatility. You know what I mean? But I think we're doing all right here. Would argue the Grimoire versus Codex that I knew somebody would. That most of these books are from the same outlook. Yeah, but what the whole point is that we can have another job using a pistol and just have it labeled something else in the Final Fantasy system. Does that make sense? Like you're not equipping a Scholar book and accidentally putting it on your Summoner. You're not accidentally putting your Summoner book on your Scholar. It will automatically switch your job. So if you attach the Saber hand cannon or the Saber pistol to your character, you're going Corsair. Or if you just do the pistol machinist, you go machinist. We're not going on semantics. I'm just saying systematically they've done it before. They can do it again. It's not a limitation. AoE cuts and coats in oil. Second part sets them on fire. Oh, that's actually kind of nice. I like that. 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 That's cool. That actually makes sense. So you're like doing initial damage and then the second hit does more damage because they're all burning. Maybe. They don't like dots, but we could consider that for the burning. That would mean it's a dex job? Correct. Scouting. Am I leaning more solely towards damage dealing? Because rum as a heal could be given to allies as well. That's true. That's true. The issue is with the fear on the... And I'm not saying I have an issue with that. I'm more than willing to give it something. Because... Like it could fire his gun into the air and that gives everybody a momentary speed boost. Or it increases, damage dealt by, 5% for a little bit. Or, it's just if you get too supporty with it, Square Enix freaks out and they're like, well, we don't want people to all bring a Corsair, so we got to make it weak as well. So I'm not making... We can definitely have it not completely selfish, like pure damage dealer. But yeah, we don't want it to be like too supporty either, otherwise Square Enix will break its kneecaps, like they did for Bard and Dancer. I'm not sure if that's the exact reason, but they definitely don't want everybody to feel like they have to bring this because it's the best. Rogan is going to introduce that one. Yeah, the kind of ideas, the limbs of lemons and stuff. But yeah, we're thinking rum buff. We could do self for damage. Or you could even take it like alcohol numbs you. Self for damage, or like AoE for heal or damage reduction. Like, are you technically taking less damage just because you don't feel it? No. But does it work for this? Yeah. People complain a lot about Dancer not being very good. Or Dancer being like extremely low even with their raid damage. That's what I mean. Is that they never let Dancer be too strong. Like a small bear or something. Like a, yeah, a combat one. Is it, or which was the one that, because just because Scholar has it doesn't mean another job can't also have it. The men tell no tales. Okay, I like the idea. Like it's a pretty good cliche to go on. It's like, what would it do? Yeah, they've already used COR in Final Fantasy XI. If they went with Corsair, they could just go pirate, or something like that. If they actually used it, but it would be COR. Let's see here. Let's see if we can get some more, because we have a little bit of AoE as well, and here some bombs, some caltrops. Trying to think of something that doesn't necessarily do the shotgun thing, like Machinist did. I go kind of to like Monster Hunter, like setting down a barrel bomb. You roll a giant barrel at a group of mobs and it's drunkenness could be a cool job gauge. I agree with you there. We already have the melee ranged gauge technically, but if we have something if we can work out something on top of that, I wouldn't mind an upkeep thing, because people do like upkeep. Typically. Gangplank, basically. That's kind of the idea here. Is one of the themes being pulled from. Same as like Dark Knight got heavy inspiration from Berserk and Guts. Yeah, dealing with something with treasure could be cool as well. It makes me think of Yojimbo a little bit. Is it feasible to give them something along the lines of the warning shot? Functions similar to Mug and Trick. So warning shot, like kind of giving a debuff to things. Coin gauge just makes me think of reflecting shots of a coin. Yeah, we had the kind of Rufus idea last time from the 7 remake. I don't remember fighting him in the original 7. I haven't gotten that far. Oh, I kind of like that X marks the spot thing. The positional bit would be annoying for some classes. Just like they took away the positional just for a trick in general. I like the idea though. Again, such a good like action combat idea. I think they'd murder it as soon as they put it in the game. For all your treasure maps in the inventory game. Dude, that would be sick. That would actually be awesome. Or how much skill you have. Makes your main ability do that much more damage. Maybe good as a personal buff because it could screw over. That's true. Yeah, you know what? We're gonna throw it in there. Yeah, I'm thinking either like the rum or the sea shanty, or something like that. Also being more of like the buff area, or filling the buff. Yeah, I wish that would be so cool. Being able to like, that's something that I miss from 11. There's some really immersive things in there that are a pain in the butt to keep up, but at the same time, it's just like, I don't know, again, immersive. So some things being a pain in the butt, as long as it's not, I don't want to do this anymore. Just kind of like, oh, I forgot my, ninja tools or my ammo or something like that. At least in 11, you didn't burn through ammo with GCDs. It was exactly Valiant. That'd be so good. So good. You couldn't spend any of your money. You're just hoarding all. It would ruin the economy for all the Corsairs out there. It would be legitimate pay to win. Because you'd just be botting all the all the guilds so you could get a damage boost. Gauge acceleration, it would, yeah, that would be spicy. It would just throw off rotations. That's the problem of it. Yeah, even cooldown reduction would throw off people's. I feel like it would throw off people's rotation. There would be more complaints that, oh, my stuff's not lining up anymore, than, oh, cool, I got my buff sooner. Do I do this often? We're just starting doing this on a more community-wide basis. I've been doing it on my YouTube channel for a while for certain jobs that I've been playing. So like I'll do the videos for Monk and stuff like that. And it took a few years, but we actually saw ideas that we implemented that I talked about with the community in the Endwalker version of Monk. So I figured, and my whole goal was starting YouTube and even doing Twitch and stuff like that, being a part of the gaming space is to be a game designer at some point, so this is kind of my portfolio as well. So I'm working together with people, we're having fun, going through this design process, and I'm getting some feedback from people so that I can kind of learn from this whole thing. We're going to be, the next one that I do, I'm not going to be doing one of these discussions again for, I'll still probably pop in. I've just got some doctor's appointments I gotta tend to, but I'm going to be doing the video next. So once we get everything here, I'm taking it to the video. That might take a week or two to like organize the thoughts and pose it to everybody. And then once we get feedback from the YouTube video, we'll come back to this and start refining like, what are the abilities we're going to do? What is this job literally going to look like? Or what would it look like? So we're going to be honing this down from general ideas and then just more and more focused every time. Okay, it'd be something like Reaper's flank and rear resource combo skill. Obviously no positional, just switching skills. Visuals could go from one side to the other. Okay, yeah. As much as I like positional stuff, it's really... Like, I don't like positional stuff in rotation games. I don't like it in Final Fantasy XIV. I love it in things like Monster Hunter. It works so well in Monster Hunter. You hit the legs if you want to knock the monster down. You hit the head for some extra damage, or if you're using blunt weapons and you knock it down. Or you're hitting the butt to cut off the tail. Like, make it mean something. It just doesn't in 14. Aside from, oh, it's something for me to pay attention to. No, we can't get rid of it because I'll just be bored. Like that. I think that says a lot more about other issues. If moving 2 steps to the left and the right are what make the game, the combat, interesting for you. Yeah, well, we can still throw that in for blank shot if we want to do. Because not all of these are going to make it. So it's good to kind of have a surplus of ideas. I didn't mean to, I kind of, that's from my own mouth, I think. I shot those ideas down before. I was like, we already kind of have ideas, but we should have a surplus. We should have more. And then going to what other people were saying, kind of like a party, either damage, crit boost. I'm certainly down for stuff like that. Maybe a gauge where you could build it by using gun attacks, and when the gauge fills, you raise a flag. So right now what we're doing is your ranged attacks fill up your melee gauge. That unlocks an empowered melee combo. And then you do your melee to fill up the range gauge, and then that gives you an empowered range combo. That'll be your solo thing, and then you switch back, or you assign a first mate when you're in a party and you choose to be primarily ranged, or you be primarily melee. You're like, well, what happens if you can't get your uptime, or if you need to be uptime and you chose to be ranged? Then you fill your gauge faster. So there'd have to be something to offset to make sure that it's not super powerful to actually make people play it as intended. But yeah. Imagine a better version of Mug on Ninja, and it would open up a combo for you. You had a gauge that filled by the combo. Party buff, single target. So like a quicker version of Astros and Bards type deal. That's essentially Bards thing, is that you give yourself a buff and you do stuff within that window, and that doing that in there gives you a party buff. You could become that during a Realm Reborn. I don't think you can't unlock any jobs in the base game. I'm pretty sure like for the Heavensward jobs you need to have Heavensward and so on. So this would be something that you unlock later. Because Dark Knight wouldn't make sense in a Realm Reborn either, because you're an Ishgardian job. Same with Machinist. So I don't think the lore breaking is an issue. Samurai if you have a level 50 job, but don't you still need Stormblood? And Samurai, where's Samurai unlocked? Yeah, Rogue was still introduced in a Realm Reborn though. Samurai Zolda. Then yeah, that wouldn't break the lore, because you'd have to go to, because you don't have to go to Hingashi for it. All you have to do to get around that system is to have it in Garlemald. Like, if it would be lore breaking, which I don't think is a huge issue, you just put it somewhere where you'd have to go through the Realm Reborn story. Okay. But, like, do you know what I'm saying? Like, just one example. Like, if there are jobs that are locked behind story, then we could just do the same thing. You know? It's not the biggest issue. Anyway, we're talking about Corsair right now. Because Corsair could unlock at any point, you know? Let's see, any ideas? Like, if you guys have any more ideas for the AoE rotation, I'm trying to think of stuff that isn't just like spinning around with your blades. Like I do want a barrel bomb. We're just gonna throw a barrel bomb. I don't know if that would be like a, you know, barrel bomb finisher. Everything's on fire, and then you throw the barrel bomb, and it just. You have the summoning cannons from the. I don't think bringing in a ship for your regular AoE rotator, that would be really intensive on this. Like saving that for an LB, I think would be better. Summoning a cannon in general, though, I'm down for that. Just a regular cannon, Molotov. I think that would be more. You think that'd be maybe a GCD? So I'm thinking like rotation stuff too. Use your sword arm. Keeps the hand cannon. I feel that would be more of a. I would see that being in like the ranged skill, like having that. Like just like your normal GCD rotation. That's right, the Opera Omnium Powder Keg. I'm aware, I like it. But I also like the cannon idea too, just. This would be a. I'd like to see a cannon rotation, that would be kind of cool. Bring out the cannon, fire in your lasers. A lot of good OGCD ideas. I'll have to sort things out for the video, but I like where we've landed on a lot of these. Should the AoE rotation have the ranged and melee split? Probably. Yeah, like probably. Because right here we have this could be a ranged one where you throw the oil, then you throw the Molotov. Maybe like this could. I don't know if it's the point of the oil or whatever. Let's keep it there. Throw the oil, then shoot, set it on fire, and like it spreads. So like it hits the main target and then it kind of spreads to the other, and then you toss a bomb, and then poof, explodes, and then you just keep throwing bombs. And then for the melee one, could just be a slice and dice type deal. What about a reverse red mage rotation where it's mostly melee, hence range phase? It's in the gun. We are. I think that's something we answered before, right? In here. It's not a. You have if you're solo, you have the range phase, the melee phase, but for this, it's you pick one and then you could that'll get you up to speed. Because this is we figured out the basics of it last week, and now we're going into more of kind of like what the identity is. I think we're moving away from the gambling. It was a kind of cool idea because we talked about Setzer and stuff like that, but I kind of like just sticking to basic pirate tools right now. I'm not against things like having a card buff system at some point, but like poker cards, not divination cards. Part of the ship. No, we can't do damage to self because yeah, they've gone away from that as well. Just because you can so easily kill yourself if you mistime it. Like what happens if if you need that damage buff for your rotation? Then if your rotation happens around the time that an AoE is going off, you're donezo. Unfortunately. Great action combat idea. Love that idea. I understand. I totally get it. Don't worry, no judgment from me. Yeah, I don't think it was a bad idea. It's just the way that they've designed the fights, the encounters moving forward has been so just not conducive. Instead of damage, it assigns a block of health that if you fall out of the buff, let's say you healing. Oh, I like the flaming sword idea. Sword dance combo. Finish with flaming oil coated slashes. That'd be sick as hell. Freaking Shishio style. Rurouni Kenshin. Mary in the rain while fighting. Somebody's watched Pirates of the Caribbean. I know. I getcha. Let me see if I can think of any. Like this is mostly touched on. My big contribution here was the being able to switch back and forth between melee and range, which I'm very happy with. It's difficult with Like I have to figure out my own thing, and like what ideas I have to censor myself, because not censor as in like they're bad, but just because it's an issue of what is even possible in a non-action combat game. Like there are a lot of really cool concepts that come with this job that just don't work. Like, I want pocket sand. I want a lower accuracy of an enemy. I want you know, glass shards and stuff like that, and dirty bombs. We are thinking still labeling it primarily ranged, but still using scouting. I don't know if there's anything like code-wise that prevents that, but thematically that shouldn't be an issue. Like it should just be completely fine. Like I don't think we're encroaching on any like taboos of the design. They just haven't done it yet. Not that I don't know if it's something that they can't do. We've hit most of the things. Like I'd really like rum buffs. I'd love a rum gauge. Like that'd be sick. Though I would mostly want a rum gauge or an alcohol gauge for a subclass of monk or an advanced class of monk, where it's the drunken fist style. That'd be so cool. Like a drunken fist makes no friggin' sense in rotation combat. It'd be thematic alone. Like you wouldn't actually get neat stuff out of it. We're stopping a little shorter here, but I think we've got a good base to start the video on. Speak now or forever hold your peace, folks. I'm not on any sort of like time constraint at the moment. We still got like 2 hours left normally, but I just don't. I guess we could talk about what their GCDs would be now. Like how many steps if we want to do a 1, 2, 3. Maybe take a different approach to how the GCDs work. Yeah, right now we have the, what was it? Toss a hook or anchor an enemy for a gap closer. And then also, I thought we had one thing where we like set a mine down and like, or shoot a cannon in an opposite direction to reposition. Eat a swordfish? Maybe we'll think of sea life friends, ocean friends. Yeah, no, we don't really need verticality or anything. Like that's just action combat idea. Okay, you can choose between saber and pistol, maybe a 3-part combo. Later on a 4th hit. Yeah, there will be a saber combo, there will be a pistol combo. And then something maybe similar to Gunbreaker. Well, like once the gauge is filled, you get access to like your main combo changes into something a little bit crazier. Do we go anywhere with the cannon idea? Let's see, we have cannon as the like firing the cannons from the ghost ship as an LB, bring out a huge cannon of your own. Then there was the cannon, where was it? Yeah, it was just kind of an OGCD idea. Just whip it out and blast whatever's in front of you. Somebody also brought out the idea of having a parrot. Carries explosives to enemies. Or for the melee combo could make a blunderbuss instead of a cannon. I mean, either or really works. Like you already kind of have the Sea of Thieves style hand, or the hand cannon pistol. So yeah, I'm not against bringing out a blunderbuss as well. The cannon idea is more like just for a wacky kind of feel to it. Just because people were bringing up Joy from the Machinist quest line. She just kind of ends up with big things in her hand that just weren't there before. Oh, that would actually be kind of like, instead of like a pseudo-esteem type thing. I like that. Summon your Oppo friends to man some cannons while bring in the ammo. It makes me think of the Livia fight with the hands bringing the ammo to the cannons. I don't know if that would go anywhere, but that's a really funny mental image. I like that idea. That'll work too because Opa Opas and Colibris are like always shown in pirate lore in 14. Do some fire breathing AoE, spit ramen. Ooh, the chest with the items. Like how would that? Yeah, how would that work though? Like that would be an RNG element that could be tricky to work around. Like, because what I'm thinking is the you know, you get something from the treasure chest. Maybe if you fill up a gauge, or because it could be a cooldown too, where you like dig and bring up the treasure chest. But it's like, would it just automatically affect everybody? Would it only affect you? If it affects everybody, it would have to like give an AoE that people would have to be in range for. Put things into the treasure chest. Okay, that's an interesting idea. Kind of going back to the RNG element, or like as you go through your rotation, you're filling your chest. Okay, I'm listening. Let's do. I think this is safer in GCD territory. Or let's see, add an item to a chest whenever you finish a combo. Once the chest is full, you bury it. What happens after you bury it? Like it's in the ground, you think it's forgotten. Do we grow a money tree, or do we? Is it bait? Do we bring out? Do we summon the spirits of, you know, the pirate ghosts that want the treasure, and they come in and attack whatever is like around it? Or are we able to bargain with them so they kind of come in and do some extra damage? Do we give it to the monkeys? So Mistbeard, he's retired though. It could be cool, but like he's technically retired. Feels more like a gauge than like the Sam's. Yeah, kind of. It could be. There's Blackbeard, Mistbeard, Redbeard, Roberts. So I like the chest idea. It's just a matter of what happens. Like, do you split the booty, pirate's cut, or something like that, where everybody gets their cut of the treasure? You know what would be neat is if every time like you give a buff to your allies, and you have to go around and collect treasure that's dropped from the boss, like it flies off of them and you have to go and like collect it. So instead of positionals, you're going around collecting loot. I don't know if that would work with like how mechanics work and like, hey, get in your position, I gotta get the shiny thing. I'm gonna add that as one, or split the boot, just as an idea. We can have more. That would royally screw over your ranged party members. So it would have to be something like, maybe we use it for transition, or like times where everybody has to group up for buffs and stuff like that. It would have to not be so tightly attached to the rotation in that case. Kind of have to be a cooldown that's only useful at certain times. We just don't want people to have to feel like they need to fish for it. House. That's more of the issue, is that we don't want people to want only one item from the chest. But I guess what you're saying with the Astro is that it just goes to a ranged member, a melee member, maybe a tank or a healer. We could split it up that way. In that case, it could actually work. Yeah. Just trying to think of like thematically. I'm trying to keep it like, why would this be this certain buff that we assign it to? Because if it's damage, then holding on to it would hurt the party overall. If it's morale boost, then it could be it could be an MP regeneration. It could be, we already have the move speed. We could still add the move speed here if we didn't want it other places. Job name right now is Corsair. That's what we're going with. I'm glad you guys are having fun. I have fun doing this. This is great. I like doing this in my free time. It's just people that I normally do it with are busy right now, so I have to fill the void somehow. The chest is a little callback to Zidane's thievery ability. And 9. Would you mind elaborating on that as somebody who has not played 9? Because I like the idea of like stealing and hoarding as a part of the piracy motif. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. I wanna actually make ideas like this real at some point, but right now I'm just kind of showing everybody that I can do it. Once people more believe in it, then they're more willing to be on board with it, and then we can actually start making stuff. That would be a real kick in the balls, where you drag up your treasure and it's been swapped out with a mimic, or the Aether has warped it into a mimic. That actually might be cooler, where like this is turning into a kind of a pet class, but you dig up the chest and it turns into a mimic that starts attacking the boss. I think it did damage based on the number of successful steals. Okay, so just a damage dealer. All right, into a mimic, or well, we could say explode, or and deals damage based on the amount of booty collected. That could be cool. That could be like a weird finisher, like instead of a gauge, really, or it could be a treasure gauge, where it's a treasure chest, and then once it's full, you let it loose. That'd be really cool, like, because they like doing callbacks to other games. I like that. That's a good callback. That's a great callback. The only issue with the random effects is that if this is a build-up and you get a random effect, it has to be worth it every time still. And at that point, it's like, should it even be random then? That's the problem with this rotation-based stuff being random, is that if you get the thing you don't want after building up to it for so long, people will hate it. Again, something that would work really cool for, say, action combat stuff where you're not really stuck in a rotation. You can focus on building stuff up and work on like getting it to a point where it will give you the benefits it needs. But I don't think the RNG in that respect is going to make a whole lot of people happy. I think the RNG that people most like are procs that that break up the rotation a little bit, that give you something else to do, not let you get so into a mind-numbing 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 big button 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 big button. Not a bad idea in general, just not something that really works in 14, unfortunately. For the treasure chest, you could dig up the chest and then open it, like cast time, then scatter the coins in the air, start a coin combo. Okay. Gosh, you guys ever watch Hunter x Hunter? that's the image I just got right there. Okay, so we're kind of thinking like the chemist idea, where let's see, but then we'd have to figure out how to add stuff. I'm still kind of, if you wanted to go that route, I'm leaning back towards basically beating loot out of the enemy and having to pick up certain items. Like, you remember, was it Wander's Palace Hard? Was it Hard that did that, where you had to pick up buffs off the ground? You had to pick up treasure off the ground for the Yojimbo Kugane Castle. But I'm thinking more like different colored coins. Even like you get a ruby, you got a sapphire, you got a gold coin, and you fill up the chest based on like what you get from it. And then you could have an AoE party buff that makes, or even like the buff from your first mate that also drops coins from them. See, what if you had things via buttons, like a more complex dancer step combo? Instead of being told what buttons in order, you decide. It's like a cross between ninja mudras and dancer dances. Okay. Essentially Tenchi Jin. Kind of. Not that you're stuck in place, but the step combo, but it's Tenchi Jin. So I'll throw that down real quick. So these are all variant ideas. Also, we could do something where the melee and ranged gauge give specific items. That would make it so that you'd kind of be forced into more of a red mage style thing, where you have to make a melee combo or a ranged combo. You have to switch it up if you want those. No, let's not kill its versatility before we even solidify that. Wouldn't that be too much like Monk? You have it in different things, Vasi. It is technically what Monk has, but it's also, Monk is technically what Ninja has, and Ninja is technically what Astro has, or vice versa. And like, a lot of jobs use this system, but that doesn't mean that it can't be used by other ones, you know what I mean? And instead of like doing a big attack at the end of it, like Dancer and monk and astro with like, it'd be more akin to astro or bard, where you are amassing these things to then set off later. It's because Squeenix likes to make rolls play semi-similarly lately, unfortunately. I wouldn't be surprised if instead of mug, they give you plunder. Effectively the same sort of debuff on the... Could be, yeah. Because that's a common issue that I come across in a lot of different discussions that we do here, is that, you know, people are put off by, you know, what about this, what about that, this is an issue, or like earlier. It just... various things, and we have to talk through them, that's all. Like the, you know, Magitech Knight might not work because of lore, and it's just like, it's such an easy solution. It's not just set it somewhere where people can't get until the lore makes sense. Like if you set the job trainer in Garlemald or in Ralger's Reach, or in, you know, a new area that we haven't seen yet, then it doesn't matter. Like you pick it up after the lore issue is done. Yeah, we got some exploding barrels up here in the AoE rotations and potential off globals. Bombs are definitely in it. Got you already. I'll be posting this again to the YouTube community page and to Patreon later. If anybody ever misses a day or whatever, you'll be caught up, or you can just check this to see if anything's changed. To cover down on the same kind of party utility? Yeah. That's why I wasn't hard against things like the speed buff, or, you know, another kind of, you know, party damage buff or crit rate buff or something like that, where, you know, just coordinate with your team on when it's up, when one of theirs is up, so you don't overlap. If they summon a trident, then Maki? What is the Maki? What am I missing there? I'm not against the trident idea. The arena, ocean, and then summon... Yeah, the Kraken. You can meet that. So summon the... You stole the trident and you toss it into the enemy, which makes the Kraken attacking. Kraken attack the enemy. I mean, seeing it playing up more like that, because we're not a dark mage summoning Cthulhu, but we can definitely bait a sea monster that's attached to a certain piece of treasure that we have. Oh, you're saying make the arena an ocean and then summon Cthulhu. Yeah, that'd be neat. Could be neat. No, see what's gonna happen here is that it's a primary range physical that has a melee combo that has a caster LB. It's the most versatile of any job ever. We're making history here. Like, just because they do line AoEs with range doesn't mean we have to always have it that way. Like that's something where I'd be willing to kind of step a little bit out of the box on. Okay, completing a combo earns you a key to open the chest. Alright, think about that too. Yeah, it's alright, people are coming in here and there. That's why we're gonna have an all-encompassing video discussion about it. These are good ideas, and if you have more along this line, keep them coming. I'm gonna start thinking about, actually up here, just kind of what we'd be looking at here for, because I don't know if we really need to, there's nothing real crazy about this. It's usually just a 1, 2, 3 and you have a center combo. I'm hesitant even at the end of this to put in potencies, because I'm not a balance person. I have to figure out all the different combinations and how the numbers add up to make sure it's not overpowered. Alright. Because, yeah, normally it's just like a 1, 2, 3 combo. Sometimes you unlock a fourth. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. Because we have the sword and the range gauge, which will open up new windows. Like, you could get a 4th and 5th attack if you complete it. Or you go into kind of like a wildfire thing. Like wildfire / gunbreaker. Where it's just more fast-paced. Is it hyperdrive? Is that what it's called, a machinist? But basically where you start shooting really fast, or you start like just blade dancing really fast for your combo. Yeah, I probably won't need to do the potency stuff. But yeah, I was just thinking about it. I was like, how detailed do I want to go? Not that detailed. What if it's like a resource spender to get an extra pistol sword to to do more pistol sword combos. That's kind of the idea, is that once you get your sword gauge full, you get to pull out 2 swords, and then it's a dual bladed combo. And then once you fill up your gun gauge, you pull out a second gun and you do a. I was gonna try and be slick and say the Devil May Cry. What's the gunslinger combo? Oh, okay. For the treasure chest, bringing back the Opos. What if you had a skill that you can cast every 90 seconds that sends them out to search for a key? Takes a certain amount of time for them to get the key for the chest, but doing a combo certain skill can reduce the timer. Okay. Okay. Balthier's level 3 mist attack. Could do something like that. I don't know exactly what that is, but LP ideas. You missed the split the booty combo? Yeah. Don't worry, I'll share mine with you. Oh man, sorry, my brain is starting to fizzle out. We gotta find a few. I like all these different ideas though. Like the treasure chest seems to be a popular idea for like what you're going for in your rotation. What the chest actually does, we have yet to decide. Hell, the chests could be where you keep your spare weapon. Like you just bring out a gilded version, or you just, I don't know. And that's how you unlock the combos, or it just there are a few decent ones. There's like I think having the option of like being able to turn it into a mimic or something through a certain way would be neat, along with being a buff on another way. If we were able to remove damage from it though, we would also be able to make it a lot more versatile for how it works for the party. Because obviously, if magic or if damage is ever attached to it, that's the default thing that you go for. But if it's a like minor buffs here and there, like regens or damage reductions, or like cooldown reductions, like a cooldown reduction would actually be really cool for transitions. It wouldn't work in general, because it throws off rotations really badly. But if it was like something that you could prep for a boss transition for and just reopener, that'd be really sick. Attack speed's another thing where it throws off people's rotations, because then it would have to like affect everything. Yeah, I as long as I didn't have TP, arrow was a lot of fun, especially on Black Mage, but with most rotation-based jobs, people are more frustrated by the fact that their buffs are no longer lining up, or that your 2 minutes are no longer everybody else's 2 minutes. You know what I mean? Would it look basically like a reskin of the Phoenix that Summoner summons? I don't know. Like, you could open the chest and a skull could pop out. You could open a chest and rainbows could pop out, like in the treasure maps. You could open it up and it turns into a mimic and starts biting the boss. Did have uses? Yeah, it would only apply to party members. Like most things. Like even AoE heals don't affect anybody but your party members. You have to specifically hit your party members with it. So anybody who is bosses are weak to pride. Yeah, they would. The buffs wouldn't mess with anybody else that wasn't in your organized group. Movement speed, we were thinking more along the lines of the sea shanty, like a charge sort of thing, or the blank shot. Thinking kind of gangplank, you shoot your gun in the air and everybody gets a little boost. Maybe have it like 5 seconds instead of scholars, but it has charges. So even if you were in like 24 men, it would only affect your group for any buffs that you have. So I wouldn't worry too much about that, unless it's even in like dungeons and stuff, you anticipate it being annoying. But I think adding movement speed should be an on-demand thing, not I have to build up to it and then open a chest for it. You know what I mean? Like that should be more of it should line up with a 2 minute if it's damage based. It should line up with like, all right, I'm gonna hold this for the boss to go away, and I'm gonna buff this up for the big attack that comes in. If you get literally the same thing that I just said, I think we've got the stream delay there. I think that would be better on-demand item rather than you pull it out of the chest, personally. Because I I still don't like that Monk's movement speed is attached to a global cooldown. I hate that so much. Like, beyond, like, keep Notman, but get rid of the way that Six-Sided Star works. For goodness sakes, give it to us on an off global. Cut its potency. I don't care. Just let us move. Let's get out of there. Yeah, I'm not having. I'm waiting on the eureka moment. There's gonna be one set of ideas that just gives this that little click, and everything's gonna fall into place. But we're moving towards it. I can feel it in my bones, just shy of it right now. Because both of these ideas. Okay, so we've got. Let's recap. I'm gonna make this a little bit bigger here so that we're more distinct. So we have a chest. The overarching idea is that you've got a chest to plunder, or you're putting stuff into it. So you're either plundering it and getting a key to plunder it, or you're putting stuff into it for an effect. So if we're plundering it, I think having it is this. It does this, right? But if we're adding stuff to it, then that would play more to the versatility that we want out of the job right now, which would give us the option of it's gonna give a crit buff, or it's gonna give an attack boost, or it's gonna a poison mist that makes the enemy vulnerable, like a trick attack. So going back to like the plunder ability somebody brought up, you find the chest. Say your combo gives you clues on the map, or you're following the map, and then the chest appears once you have, then that's your X marks the spot ability. Pulls up the chest, and then you use plunder it, and then the boss is debuffed on something that, grants the party more power, or like a quick vuln or something on the enemy, something like that. We've kind of moved away from the gambler aspect of it, mostly because unless we can figure out a proc thing that doesn't screw with the rotations. Because if we mess with the rotation, RNG really sucks. But like I said before, if you can figure out a way to implement it that breaks up the monotony of a rotation, then we're much better off. So if we can figure that RNG and do some and that's kind of where the randomness, the RNG bit of it is in the, either you, my idea was that you complete a combo and then the boss drops loot, and you want to pick up the specific parts of the loot, or the specific loot that you want to put in the chest for a certain effect. Or you complete a kind of dancer step style thing that's kind of like a Sen or a Mudra, or the Astrologian seals that gives you a certain buff. But if we go to RNG on something that you build up to over, like this is a 60 to 90 second thing, I'm thinking, to get a chest. Like getting enough stuff to put in the chest, or like sending out your Oppo and your animal friends to go find the key to open it, or whatever it is. If that effect ends up being random, then the payoff gets really hit. So, but I'm fine like exploring some RNG elements, or like the deck of cards kind of thing, or the coins, flip a coin type thing. That would happen every 30 seconds. 15 to 30 seconds, because that's roundabout when you're looking at Black Mage Thundercloud, which is hardly ever an issue anymore. Black Mage Thundercloud, or Monk's Forbidden Chakra. What if sort of like Astrodon style, where you're on the hunt for the big chest? 2-minute party buff, okay. You find the mini ones in the meantime that are random with some personal rotation impacts. Okay. Okay, so kind of like the breadcrumbs. I could also go back to the idea of the boss dropping certain things, like the loot that it drops. You pick one up at a time, or you can only pick one up at a time, and that gives you an effect. I'm gonna mull that one over before I write it down. I'm not against it though. Maybe house. Maybe we could do that. Maybe we could do that. I was thinking it would be more something that like you pull out the chest, or like you found it, you maybe run over it. Not have to stand on it for very long, just run over it, and then you place it down when you want to use the effect. What about setting up barrel bombs on a cooldown? Yeah, I got those in off globals. And then the AoE rotation was like, you know, toss some oil, you know, throw a bottle, does a little bit of damage in the oil. And then you like throw a Molotov or you set it on fire. Then there's a dot and then you throw a bomb that's ignited by the fire. And then it explodes. And then that's your AoE rotation, which I thought would be fun. But yeah, setting up bombs, throwing bombs, having a parrot carry the bombs, grenades, just carpet bombing. I want that. Sorry. I couldn't get that one out of my head. The oil wasn't a bad idea initially, but the rum, keep it with the rum. Then having, like, there are ideas for a rum gauge or an alcohol gauge of some sort. Even if it doesn't have RNG, maybe just theme the explosives as exploding dice. Okay, for opening the chest. What if we had one of the ideas for opening it, as well as a gauge that gets filled up when you use specific skills? The gauge is called something like True Pirate Soul, okay. And it allows you to open the chest without needing the key first. Okay. And the skills that would be needed, or would needed to be used, would be on a 20-second recast. And it would combo, so the key finding skill had a 120. This could be woven into the rotation. Okay. Okay. So making it a treasure gauge. Okay, hang on. Alright, hang on. We're on to something. Plunder loot from the boss to fill the gauge. OGs, CDs. I'm gonna say steal loot, and then I can use plunder here. Char cooldown to steal extra. And fill the gauge faster. So instead of like picking stuff up, you're just kind of building treasure from stuff, and it could just have the little cha-ching sound effect as you hit it. So you're able to find the chest. So you fill the chest gauge or the treasure gauge. You find the chest. Gives the party buff, and then the 120-second would. What's the deal? It automatically fills it, or does it speed up the filling, or like if you can open it without a key, or if you just get the chest through your rotation, the goal of the 120-second cooldown is what? I'm not trying to challenge it. I'm just trying to understand. I'll wait for you to be typing. I'm trying to think about it as well, because we also can't forget that we've got currently a sword or a ranged and a melee gauge that can still give something according to this with their, or it could just be filling the gauge faster as you get into the empowered state. I think so. At least you know you can open the chest every 120 seconds regardless of the gauge. I'm trying to think of parallels to make it make sense to me. Not that it's obscure, I'm just trying to like solidify it in my head. I'm trying to think of it kind of like how the Ninki gauge is filled with like consuming Suiton, or by using Meisui. Dark Knight getting more gauge, or rather Warrior with the Wrath. Infuriate rather. So Apex our own Bard sort of has the variable potency depending on how much gauge you dump into it. Okay, so something kind of just to accelerate it, like maybe for opener or something. Oh, okay, hang on. Can open the chest anytime. Consider having a key at least, but it gets stronger the more the gauge is filled. Something like that. Let's see. Okay, so what I meant was that if the key finding skill is on 120 recast, the chest is on no recast, then you could use the key finding skill every 120 seconds. The higher levels you need to unlock a gauge that fills up with a certain amount and can open the chest regardless. Okay, so initially you can't open the chest whenever. You need the 120 cooldown. This makes it more rapid. Okay. Sorry to use so many quotes. I'm just trying to make sure that people understand that these are more symbolic than anything. While in ranged melee combo, swap to the other. So if you're in melee but the boss goes out of range, swap to range. The idea right now is to have access to both your ranged and melee combo. It's less of a stance, which could be a stance, but not quite. Or it could, the stance could be attached to your first mate even. Like if you pick a melee, then you automatically switch your abilities to the opposite. But at the same time, if you're solo, doing your finisher, or like filling the, yeah, you'd have to have something else to hit it. Because if you're solo, then that doesn't work really. Could do a stance just to save on button bloat. Yeah, I don't think it'd be too bad. We've had that before. We have two different 1, 2, 3 combos. Would there be any sort of benefit to waiting the full 120 seconds? I'm thinking about a machinist queen self-destructibility where if you wait the potency is slightly increase. The idea here is that you either kind of like more the Apex arrow, like Shattered brought up, I think, where you can set it off earlier if you have the key and enough gauge, but it's worth more, like it gets stronger as you fill the gauge. So like if you set yourself as melee, oh yeah, so yeah, that's right, Dragon. We've got three options, three pretty good options right now, and we can mix and match a good number of these. It's gonna take a while to make sure everybody sees this and kind of go over it. I might do another one of these later next Monday. So then it'd just be a matter of like deciding what the buffs are. So either have it just as a set buff or more of a pick and choose. That'll depend on kind of the general consensus of people who'd be interested in playing the job. Maybe instead of a job, a gauge, stickers. You can even throw some RNG in for flavor, up to 3 or 4 stickers. Each sticker gives you a stack. Well, why stickers though? I'm confused on the stickers. Because again, if it's all relatively the same amount of damage, either one, there's going to be one that's a little bit better no matter what, and that's the only one people are going to use. So adding extras is just wasted resources, unfortunately. And 2, yeah, if they're all the same, you could just make it the same. Divvying it up into different stuff could be interesting, but I don't know. That's the trouble with having options, is that each option has to be viable. And in a rotation setting, it's always like one thing. Oh boy. Because what you're saying, the sticker idea is essentially the dancer steps thing. So it's like the mix of the step and the mudras or sen to get a certain thing, but it would make more sense to like throw it into the chest, and then you're divvying it up, because then you're like, oh, but I need this one now. And then you're switching it up, so you're still having to pay attention a little bit. And it's not so clear cut every time. I think this is enough to show off in a video, and I'm just kind of burned out. I'm feeling the pressure to entertain, but I am like pulling up nothing. Like a fully leveled Drake from Fate Go. Yeah, pretty much. That's almost exactly what I was thinking. Yeah, I'm really happy with what we've come up with here. I'm glad for everybody's contribution too. Like it's been good to toss around these ideas, and it'll be interesting to see kind of what we end up doing, and we could come up with something even better. We're more than likely going to come up with something even better down the line. Like by the time we're done with this, it's probably going to look, well, not substantially better, or not substantially different, but I think it's going to look quite a bit different. We're going to figure some cool stuff out, I think. Thank you guys for hanging out. Like I said, next week, I'm probably not going to do one of these streams. I do want to be consistent, so if I have the time, I'll be on. I'll try and keep you guys posted either on Patreon or here on the title. I might see if I can reschedule my appointment, see what we can do there, and then just cancel stuff on Tuesdays. But I'm going to be working on the video now, so I'm going to try and squeeze that in. This is a new thing for me, so I'm going to try and actually find the time between making like the Nest videos to organize these thoughts and record something and get it out. So be patient with me. I'm going to try. This is still a new thing, but I appreciate you guys being with me on this journey, and how excited everybody's been to, or eager rather, to be a part of it. I really appreciate you guys. Lots more people in here than last time, so that's good. I hope we can keep growing, get more insight, get more views. Not just views on the channel, but I mean views as in viewpoints, points of view. Yeah, just all these different angles to, you know, check this out and pick it apart and see what we can make out of it. So, yeah, we'll be doing more of this. I will be posting this on Patreon if you want to be voting on certain things or like in the loop a little bit more. Any tier works, and it helps me, you know, build this as a, you know, more consistent venture. I'm gonna have my artists and my video editor on more full-time first, so this is a good way to involve you guys and help them get paid. I'm gonna try and talk to an artist, so even if it's not my artist right now getting paid, I will be paying an artist to give us some concept art at some point to kind of get some ideas going. Once we get some more solidified ideas and concepts out about this, because if we go too quick right now, we might miss some key things that need to be included. So I think, yeah, we're just going to talk about this on the video, and then we'll go from there. But that's it for today. Thank you for hanging out, everybody. Hope you have a great rest of your night. God bless you all, and we will see you next time on the stream.